So it would seem that government is coming after the private security sector, and when you look at it at face value, it looks like they're trying to clean house. But if you take a magnifying glass to the amendments, well, something a little bit more sinister comes to the fore. Let's get into it.
When people zone
have our smaller skeletons.
Did I hear that correctly? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Newsflash. I'm your host, Joe Emilio. Thanks for tuning in. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're diving into something that might seem a little bit boring at the surface, but trust me, you're going to want to listen to this episode. There are amendments to the private security industry regulations.
Oh, here we go again.
Government wants to add more regulations to the private security sector. Now, on paper, it looks like they're just trying to tidy up things, weeding out dodgy operators, enforcing accountability, and making things safer. But when you actually look deeper at it, it looks less like tidying up and more like burning the house down to kill a fly. Shout out to Paratus. I reached out for comment and I will play his voice note later on. First, let's have a look at some of the outrageous amendments that he has pointed out. First up, under the proposed rules, a private security company can be barred from operating not because they're guilty of a crime, but because they're simply under investigation.
I'm sorry, what?
That's like suspending someone's driver's license because a cop thought that he might have run a red light. Innocent until proven guilty? Nah. How about guilty until we feel like dealing with you? Next, the amendment says that security guards may only be issued a reasonable amount of ammunition. Cool, but what's reasonable? 2 bullets? 1? 10? 50? Maybe a stern warning and a slingshot. This kind of vagueness opens the door to arbitrary enforcement. It's like saying you can have a reasonable number of beers before driving, and that sounds fine, until you get pulled over and then the cop decides that one reasonable drink was actually just one light cider. So the amendments to this law also include a mental and emotional health assessment mandatory every 12 months. Which in theory is a good idea. You don't want some unhinged Rambos patrolling the streets or suburbs. But the amendments don't say who does these assessments, nor do they state how they're done or what the standards are. So it's not we're checking your fitness, it's more like we might check sometime, somehow, if we feel like it or if you've been too smiley lately. Oh, and if your company has semi-automatic rifles, good luck. They'll now be restricted to cash-in-transit jobs, critical infrastructure, and anti-poaching units. So if you're part of a tactical team doing VIP protection or guarding high-risk areas, sorry, you get a bolt action and some prayers.
What a load of commie bull.
And here is one of my favorite bits. Every firearm in a security service must install a tracking device. There's a problem with that. That technology doesn't exist, not in any practical, affordable, or scalable form. What exactly are they planning to do? Glue an air tag to the barrel? And here comes the grand finale, a list of banned weapons. And we're not just talking about guns here. Tasers, tear gas, water cannon, sponge grenade, rubber and plastic bullets, and any other weapon that may harm civilians. So if you're planning to control that riot, I don't know, try using water balloons or maybe some Nerf guns. So to summarize, you can't use automatic rifles, you can't carry too much ammo, you can't use non-lethal tools, you must install sci-fi trackers, and you might be shut down for being investigated. So as I mentioned earlier, I reached out to Gideon for comment on this story, and here's what he had to say.
Draft amendments to the private security industry regulations were just released on the 28th of March. There is a 4-week period for public comment, which is significantly made more difficult by the fact that the email address provided in the actual draft does not work. It is entirely incorrect and it bounces back. So that's a problem. So we're starting off with a problem, and there are numerous problems with this piece of proposed regulatory amendments. Altogether, what these regulations do is they massively increase the administrative burden on already administratively heavily burdened private security firms. They're going to make the cost of compliance significantly more. That cost is going to be passed on to the consumers or the clients, being all of us. It's going to make private security provision less effective. It's going to severely limit what they're capable of doing. And it's done with with almost irrational foundations, in the sense that I cannot understand why some of these provisions exist in these draft amendments. A major issue, of course, that the private security industry has is criminal and rogue players in it. But they exist purely because the relevant authorities are not actually cracking down on them and enforcing the necessary laws and regulations as they should be. And now it seems that their answer is to say, well, let's just tighten up these regulations even further, as if that's magically going to solve the problem. So incredibly misguided, very damaging and harmful, and very concerning.
Isn't that the bottom line, though? Whether you are for or against private security, this affects everyone. Because SAPS is under-resourced and overworked, private security is the only reason most of us can sleep at night without 4 locks, a Rottweiler, and a Claymore mine hidden in the backyard. But here's the part that really gets me. This doesn't feel like clumsy policy making anymore. This feels deliberate, like a slow and tactical kneecapping of the very people that actually keep us safe. Just hear me out and think about this for a moment. SAPS is overstretched, and the private security step in to fill in the gap. And now with this amendment, the government is essentially putting shackles on the one part of the system that actually works. And here's where I might be connecting dots that shouldn't be connected. But the Expropriation Act was just signed into law. That means that the state can now take your land or property without compensation, legally. And not everyone's going to hand over their home with a smile and a handshake. So ask yourself, what happens when people say no? What happens when communities resist? And now, conveniently, the government is targeting private security, one of the buffers between ordinary citizens and state overreach. Coincidence? Or a chess move? If these regulations pass, the security firm either shuts down or they're so restricted they can't even help you. And we're basically left defenseless. And it makes you wonder, if they're going after private security companies now, are private gun owners next? Is this about safety or control?
It doesn't take a genius to see what's happening here.
Now, I'm not saying they're about to kick down your door, but I am saying it is worth asking who will stop them if they do.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
And again, what's crazy, and as Paratis mentioned, or Gideon mentioned, that there's only 4 weeks to comment. And when they first released these regulations for comment, the email that they told everybody to send comments to didn't even work. Typical ANC fashion, right? But luckily, because Paratis or Gideon made some noise about this, the actual email has been given. But I'm going to suggest to you a better way to send your comments in. Go to this website, FreeSA. Link is in the description. Very easy way of submitting your comments. They're going to make sure that it goes to the right email and to government. FreeSA is a new public participation platform, and they'll make sure that your voice is heard. Once again, link in the description. That is the best way to make sure that our voices are heard, so please go to that website and leave your comment. And let's make sure that these amendments do not go through. And look, we all can agree that dodgy security companies should not be allowed to run wild. But you don't stop them by gutting the entire industry. This bill, as it stands, would do more harm than good. It feels like it punishes the good guys while the bad guys are still, well, bad. But leave a comment in the comment section below, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think about all of this. And while you're there, leave a like on this video, share it far and wide, and subscribe to the channel. I've got more content coming your way. And also consider becoming a member. It goes a long way to supporting me and this channel and helping me to produce content for you guys. If you're a member, you get exclusive perks. You can find out more information about that at the join button below this video. And if you can't become a member, that's okay. Please consider giving a super thanks, or sasa thanks as we call them on this channel. With all that being said, thanks so much for watching. Your Newsflash is in.
I'm leaving a jawbreaker on a stick in gin for a week. Or until something ginteresting happens. This is so heavy. Stick adds flavor. And now we wait. Well, it's been a week. I don't know what happened. It's not supposed to look like that. I'm not making this up. Why is the stick like this? It's like a little scroll from the past. I have to put this in my mouth. Bone apple teeth! Oh, God. Let her mix. Oh, Jesus. It's time for a shot. Dibosia. Gin, right? Oh, God. It's like the world's chalkiest gin. 2 out of 10.